What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Tofe Evans. This week, I'm not even going to play you a sample clip from the episode. I'm going to allow you to experience Tofe raw, real, live from beginning to end, but I will read you his biography from his website. It says, to some, he's known as that kid who ran a race down the slopes of Mount Everest, but most of the time he gets called crazy or fucking nutcase, more times than his name. All for the right reasons, though. As a firm believer of pushing the boundaries of what the human body and mind is capable of, Tofe Evans is constantly reinventing himself to advocate how anyone can rise above and be the best versions of themselves. The journey Tofe has been on these past few years have not only shaped his character, but his endurance career literally saved his life. For the ones that are screaming to get out of that deadly, deep, dark rabbit hole known as adversity, you're in good hands. Here is someone who knows his field exponentially well, with his fair share of the destructive toxin, and where you may not think you'll come out of this dismal state, Tofe will guide you in the right direction with his lived experiences. Brace your seats because you're about to embark on a wild ride, a culmination of despair, mental health struggles, hardships, endurance, and more importantly, resilience. Now, after hearing that, I know you guys are fired up to hear this episode, and I know you're absolutely going to love it. In the meantime, head over to gnmlive.com and grab your tickets to Growth Now Movement Live because they are going fast and they will sell out, guys. Not only that, prices are going up soon, so head over to gnmlive.com, get your tickets, and join us in the exponential growth in all areas of our life with amazing speakers and movement makers like Susie Miller, Albie Manzo, and so much more. We can't wait to see you guys there. Now, without further ado, I give to you Tofe Evans. Tofe, welcome to the Growth Now movement, man.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about this conversation. A mutual friend and Dave Lucas introduced us, and he was like, Yo, he actually called me before he sent out that email, and he's like, I just interviewed this guy, Tofe. He's incredible. I think he'd be great for your show. And after I did some research, I was like, yep, we're having a conversation. And just really kind of inspired by your journey and what you're doing and how you're impacting the world, because that's what I'm all about, right? So it's all about impacting the world in a positive way and letting people know that, like, your rock bottom's not your end. It's just your beginning. And so your message and my message are very, very similar. So I'm excited to what we're getting into, man. So why don't you introduce your audience, or introduce yourself to my audience, just in a brief 2-3 minutes of who you are today, and then we'll get into the backstory.
Of course. First of all, man, that you gave me goosebumps, so thank you so much. And shout out to Dave. He's such a lovely guy. So for me, I'm an Australian. I'm an endurance athlete, speaker and author, and a resilience thought leader. Something that happens so naturally because, I guess, of adversity, that I'm there to help other people, get out of their ruts and help them empower to break their own limits after seeing what was possible. Dude, humans are actually a lot more amazing than we think, and a lot of people put so many limits on themselves. It's not until that we just start really small that it starts to, you can help surpass them every time, and to be that guidance there for them. It's one of the most gratifying things I could ever come across.
Yeah, I love that. So you have this quote on your website that I pulled. It's the only thing I wrote down, which I fully believe in, which is adversity is a blessing. So let's start there, because you mentioned adversity in your little intro there, and you mentioned how we all go through it. Like that's a common bond, right? So let's talk about what that quote means to you and how that's kind of launched this whole entire thing that you've really put together.
Yeah, man. It comes back down to all the people I've studied after going through my own shit. It's all the greats that have ever lived, and I'm talking like our heroes that we all look up to, came from a trajectory of pain. You can think of anyone, man, and they all came from some sort, like, adversity is the foundation of success, because it gets you super, like in Tony Robbins' book, was it Unwaking the Giant Within? I think it's what it's called. He says, when we win, we celebrate. When we lose, we ponder. And it's true. It gets us super curious. You get to a point of rock bottom, and you are at your most vulnerable state. You're willing to do anything and everything because you want to get out of it, and it's absolute hell. And before you know it, you become the beauty of that is it can be inspiring to other people that are going through something similar to realize I'm not alone. That's one of the beautiful things I found with adversity. It actually it bridges the gap with human connection when you can meet other people that have gone through some sort of turmoil. It's unreal because you relate on an not only just an empathetical level, but on a compassionate level where you like, I don't want anyone to go through that. What can I do to help you?
For sure. So you're talking a lot about adversity. Obviously, you've been through some, in your crazy journey of at this point still a shorter life. I think that, there's a lot of things. Like, I'm a big believer in the saying of like, life happens for you, not to you. And that's a lot of what you're preaching and teaching, right? Like, it creates opportunity. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you've been through that kind of led you down this path. Because like everybody goes through adversity on some level, right? And we all view it in different ways, but not everybody talks about it. Not everybody makes it their purpose and their story. So let's talk a little bit about your story and who is Tofe.
For sure, man. And it's true. Like, we're not here to compare rock bottoms and adversities. It's just we're all hardwired differently. There's almost 8 billion people, man. So we're all going to think differently to an extent. The issues I came across were like everyday issues, but they just happened one after another. And it was how I was dealing with the situations, right? As a guy, we can bottle up things easily because of testosterone, because of ego. And that was me. I was changing as a person by, hard drugs and alcohol seemed like the good alternative. And I was a kid that liked to party back in the day, but I would use that as an excuse because I'd wake up in the morning, look in the mirror. I'm not happy with this. Let's just change it. And when you change it, when it causes a psychological effect, the best way to look at it is you just become this total jerk, because how you treat yourself is how you treat others. It's like a projection. So, not to sound like a spiritual junkie, but if you love yourself, then you love others, and if you hate yourself, then you're most likely to put that onto other people. And it's, if you look at all the wars throughout time, man, like, I'm not just talking World War I, World War II, some of the stuff that's going on today, but I'm talking like Genghis Khan days, Alexander the Great days. All the wars happen from angry, resentful men with just massive egos. So if I didn't do something quick enough, there was one of two things that could happen. I may have gone through with the suicide after trying and attempting, or I would have became like that. I would have became a malicious leader one day for the wrong reasons. And it was like, business issues, it was financial issues, relationship issues, which was actually the toughest one to deal with out of all of them, because I'm a person that thrives with social connection. So when your intimate relationships are fucking up and your close friendships and your family stuff is just going haywire, and everything else, as well as like all the ambitions that you have, plus when you're partying like an animal, it's never going to end well. So essentially, it's like you're this Coke bottle with a Mentos that's thrown into it, and it's just a matter of time to watch that thing implode and explode. Yeah. And it's cool to watch live. If anyone's listening ever seen it, it's the fucking coolest thing ever to watch. But it's not cool when it's you. That's the thing with Mentos, yeah. Yeah. And that's what happened to me, man. Got to the point where it really. You know what's funny, man? We do the majority of the time, and I've succumbed to all the reasons before. We do something about our weight when it's too late. We want to see the psychologist when it's too late. We want to do something about our funds when it's too late. So I was definitely at that late point. Obviously, when you've gone through all this, it becomes hindsight. The hindsight's there, and you're like, okay, now I know not to do it again. And it also becomes powerful lessons to pass on to other people. That's why we have mentors as well. But I needed to do something quickly, man. And you mentioned before, it's about like opening up to some people. For me, it was probably the hardest thing to do, because when you're told it's a weak move to cry, when you're told it's a weak move to talk about anything, it kind of goes against all your morals, because that's what you're taught. Yeah. And I'm not talking through parents, but I'm talking like through society and the way that it was accepted. Some countries still don't even believe in it. I feel like a lot of the Middle East is still getting there. it wasn't until I was able to open up, but I could only talk to women. Like, I'm not, no, only, like, older women, because if you put a bunch of ladies together at like a breakfast, they're going to vent. You put a bunch of guys together, it's probably going to be sport. And I love sport, but I needed to talk to someone so I can prevent this active volcano from going absolutely wild.
For sure.
Dude, it gets nuts.
Yeah, and what was your, I think anybody, like, because, like, I think even in America still, it's really, from a young age, it's preached like, oh, you're a boy, don't cry. Oh, don't rub it if you get punched, or what, don't show weakness, essentially, is what's preached. And yes, it's opening up. There's more people now opening up and talking about it, but it's still like the thing. But for you, what was your breaking point? Like, what was your aha moment of like, shit, I need to snap out of this? Because look, like, you look back and you go, for how long did you abuse drugs and alcohol? Did you abuse the relationships that you have? Did you abuse yourself? And then all of a sudden one day you're like, oh crap, I need to get this together. What was your aha, like, breaking moment? And then how did you make that shift?
Yeah, dude. And it's probably not what you're going to think. It's in the moment of trying to OD. And you come across this profound dichotomy of, this is meant to be, but this is not how I'm meant to go. Right? And it's, maybe I'm looking too much through an egocentric paradigm, thinking I have it worse than everyone else. And I know that's exactly how I was thinking. It's not until I think, what Justin goes through hell, Dave goes through stress. It's everyone around you. The barista when you're at the cafe goes through hell too. It's not just me. And there's that book, Think and Grow Rich, which is about visualization and manifestation. Man, I was the complete opposite. I was thinking sink poor. That's a thing.
Yeah.
That's the parody sequel, right? That was me. It was just what I was doing with my mind, and losing all hope, and manifesting everything around me. That's all I was attracting to. I was attracting complainers. I was pushing the people I loved away from me. And it wasn't until I need to really snap out of this. And even after that, I was traveling at that point too. So I needed to come home because I'm not in a good state. And dude, I was going through anxiety and depression, right? Where anxiety is when you're living too much in the past, and depression is when you're living too far in the past, and anxiety is when you're living too far in the future. It's when you don't care about anything and you care about everything, or you're living with too much fear and too much regret.
Yeah.
It's a dichotomy where you're like, it's like that mental tug of war where you're getting push and pull. You're holding on the middle and you have a strong kid either side. How the fuck am I going to deal with this one? So it's like, Tofe, how was your day? I don't know. I spent it too busy worrying. I don't even know.
Yeah.
And you feel so melancholic, and you feel so lethargic because those thoughts magnify into so much more than they are. Meaning, like a cup of water would only weigh about 400 grams. But if I were to hold on to it for 24 hours straight, I've done an event similar to this. I can explain later on. It feels like 100 times more than it is. So, or even 1,000 times, like arbitrary numbers here. But it would feel like 400 kilograms. It's still profoundly 400 grams because I'm holding on to dead weight. And it's like the thoughts in our mind. Like if anyone's listening, it's like whether the chatter that's going on, whether it's yelling or whispering, it's the same volume.
Right.
And it's like the whispers turn into yells. And it's as if it feels like a 400 kilogram weight before we know, and then it feels like a ton.
Yeah.
And then it's like, fuck, I can't do this anymore. It got to a point where I could sleep for like 16, 17 hours a day and just want to keep sleeping because I don't want to be awake.
Wow.
And a very vivid moment was I needed to leave the house and just get some fresh air. And there's like a picnic table near my house, and it's like a beautiful, like a pine dry, like a pine color, like a light pine. And this picnic table, and by the time I leave, it's like saturated mahogany. It's just absolute tears because I'm imploding. And it's like, fuck, maybe I should go through it this time. And you start to Google ways to kill yourself and say, how do I do it this time? And how do I go through with it? And you can't even touch the screen because it's like covered in tears and it's saturated. And for me, it's like, I don't know. For some reason, I could, but I did. There was a force that was just saying, just stop. You need to step out of this. So that's when I was like, I need to talk to someone. I need to seek help.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when I've learned that it's okay to not be okay. because we're human. We're just as human as everyone else. So I make sure I have like a very trusted, like even for the person that's there for people now, I have a trusted inner circle of people around me, and I make sure I have a bunch of guys in that group as well, because what made me open up. Like, to talk about this is still never easy, but I flipped the switch by going, you know what, if instead of going, what are people going to think of me? I wonder if anyone else is feeling the same. I wonder if this can impact anyone. And what got me to open up was hearing another guy open up, really. And it's like, fuck, it's not me. I don't feel alone.
Yeah.
And that bridges the gap with human connection, with disconnect, right? I'm not talking about being single, but when we feel alone, there's a disconnect with humanity. And that's what was happening with me. I wasn't in tune with myself. I was too busy comparing myself to other people, putting too many expectations, and attaching myself to too many things, right?
Yeah.
And once I learned that, you know what, I have to detach myself to certain things and focus on being the best version of me. And it's you know what, this is going to be okay, because it's going to tell a badass story at the end of the day. But in that moment, you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But that's when you kind of got to have a bit of faith and realize, you know what, it could be worse. It could always be worse. There are people that have it much worse, and be grateful for the things I have instead of what I'm missing.
The mind is a powerful thing, man, right? So like you had talked about how I was just calling in the negative. And I think sometimes, and I like to dive a little bit deeper sometimes on these types of sayings, because when you go, oh, I was calling in the negative, people think some woo-woo shit. But the reality of it is, like, if you're thinking negatively, you will only notice the negative. Therefore, you're going to focus on it. Your actions will then give you that, right? So, like, what is it? What's the thing about? There's like a saying, something along the lines of like, misery loves company, right? So therefore, if you're miserable, other miserable people are going to latch onto you because it makes them feel better for being miserable. But if you become positive, other positive people will be latched to you because they like feeling positive. And all of a sudden your circles change, your mindset changes, and everything else kind of flows from there. So I want to get into what you're doing and how you're spreading a lot of this message, and that's through endurance competitions or marathons or ultra marathons, insane stuff that I could never imagine doing, because it blows my mind. Like, I hate running a block, let alone anything else. So it's really funny because like I'm in a health kick right now because, you know, I'm like, okay, I figured out a ton of my life, and the one thing I haven't figured out is like, how do I live a full lifestyle of health, working out every day, doing all these things. And so I'm doing like Insanity Max 30. And so these are really hard work. Have you ever done anything like that?
I've done something similar.
So those workouts, they're really, really difficult. And there's people that are insane, like in insane shape. I have a friend, Adam, who has a podcast called The $1 Million Mission. And he kind of laughed when I said I was doing Insanity Max 30 because he's like in crazy shape. And I looked at him and go, you couldn't do it. Because you train your body for a certain thing, and then your mind goes, I'm not used to doing this, and it wants to shut down. Now, physically, he could do it, but his mind's going to say, nope, you can't do it. So it becomes a battle of your mind and your body, right? So I imagine that's something. By the way, this long rant is getting somewhere, but I imagine your mind.
No, I'm listening.
I imagine your mind tells you with these ultra marathons that you're doing, like, you can't do this, but you push through anyway. Let's talk about that and how that's translated from what you just learned going through that adversity.
Of course, man. There's so many beautiful points you touched on. Going back to what you're talking about with like what you attract to, it's like neurons that wire together, neurons that fire together. That's what it's essentially selective filtering. That's why like fishermen attract other fishermen. That's why success follows success. It's because it's the only thing that's locked in your subconscious because that's all you ever think about.
Right.
So it's but I made health my number one priority. That's essentially, once I was able to open up, I started to declutter the mind a little bit because I had so many mental termites in my mental attic that I couldn't put anything else in there. So it was a matter of just letting go and forgiving myself for a few things, a lot of things actually, that it was, you know what, let's figure out why I'm not happy. I've got a little bit more clarity now that I can actually think. And my health was so degraded, dude, that I made it a priority. Like, everything else can wait at this point. Like, you know what, family can wait. Everything can wait right now because it's like that adage when the plane's crashing. Hopefully this never happens to anyone we know or to anyone in general. You got to put your own mask on. That's that cliche saying before you can help anyone else. And I needed to put my mask back on or else I would have crashed really hard. And you know what? I figured, you know what? Health equals sport for some reason. Like, the sportiest people, like, I loved watching sport growing up, but I sucked at it, man. I was the guy that I was the kid that always got picked last because my hand-eye coordination is horrendous. But I ended up resorting to running because I figured that if you can control that little person in your head that says, you should stop now, you should stop, then I could probably adopt that into life's adversity. And that's essentially what I've done. Because you have this person that's going, stop. But it's like, if I can get to that lamppost, it's fine. If I can, and it's all about small goals. When you've lost so much, this is a powerful lesson. If you feel like you've lost so much, just focus on very, very small wins. So for me, it was, you know what, I just got to get out of the house. As an extrovert, I had social anxiety, which was weird. And then, you know, I just got to do a block. And this was just walking, right? Then it's just like, let's just do a kilometer. Now let's just do a mile. Now we can do 5K. And what happened was it got me into present focused living. It was, well, like, all I was thinking about was where my feet were going. Not like, did I remember to turn off the alarm, or am I going to make it on time for my next meeting? It's like, all I care about is where my feet are going. So I'm like so in tuned. Like, you know, you can almost feel your heartbeat. And it's like, oh shit, I think I'm onto something here. But it wasn't until I tied it with a goal, and I thought, you know, I've got to do something that scares me. I don't want to be running for the sake of it. Why don't I train towards something? So I just thought, well, I should just do a marathon. Why the hell would anyone want to run for 26 miles? Smart, like, I think someone was smart enough to turn that into a business model to make people to pay to torture themselves.
Oh,
right?
yeah, dude. Yeah, like, I think about that all the time with, like, Tough Mudders and, like, 5Ks that pop up every 3 days. I'm like, you guys are like, you just go out and run. Now all of a sudden you're paying money to go run. Like, what's happening right now?
Yeah. And so I signed up for the marathon, and at the time, this is like, dude, this is life condensed into 42 kilometers or 26 miles. You go to sign up, and you go, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'll sign up now, worry later, as Richard Branson would say. And it's like, I don't even know how to run a marathon. I've never even trained for one. So Google how to run a marathon. The first marathon training plan, like, we work in kilometers, it's all in miles. I have to do all the conversions. And then it was a matter of sticking with the training. But the training was about like 4 months. Like, they say 16 weeks is a good amount of time. What that did was it started to rewire my neural pathways. What were actually bad habits were starting to be replaced with good ones, like getting up early or eating properly, and, you know, putting myself into a community of other people. Because ironically, a lot of people that run marathons are running from their demons. And but you resonate with these people because it's like, yeah, dude, me too. Like, yeah. So it's actually a beautiful kind of synergy. It gets to race day, you can't sleep the night before, and then on race day, you're like, what the hell am I doing here? And you look around, and it's not until you think, fuck, everyone is actually thinking the same thing, especially running their first one.
Yeah.
That is the exact same thing when I went through all the adversity years ago. Like, I have it really badly. No, you don't. And then you start the race, and you're like, this isn't that bad. This is fine.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you come across those mental blocks. And I don't know how I'm going to get out of this one, but you're going through sheer will of tunnel vision, and you're just doing everything you can to get through. You snap out of it, and you're like, okay, let's just go for the home stretch. We're almost there. And you see someone struggling, and you see it, and you're like, that was me like 2 minutes ago. Hey man, do you need food, water, company? Do you need anything? I'm all good. Just let me be. Okay. I did everything I could. Cross that finish line. You're like, well, in that moment of like mental turmoil, you start questioning your sanity. You're like, why the hell are we doing this? What the fuck is the point? Like, everything comes there. You start to self-doubt. But you push through, and you cross that finish line, and the highs feel higher than ever. The lows feel lower than ever. And then you're already thinking your next event, and you're a little bit sore, but it's one of the greatest feelings ever, especially running your first one. Like, sometimes there's tears, it's emotional, because that's life. Like, you go through the greatest moments and adversities when you can push through out of it. That's why I've been to like the slums of Brazil. I've trekked through the Papua New Guinea jungle. I've raced through the Nepalese Himalayas. There's some of the poorest people in those areas. Some of those poorest people are actually the most grateful, because they know what it's like to have nothing. So they focus on the fundamentals in life, the things that actually fucking matter, right?
Yeah.
Food, shelter, water, family, and close friends. And for me, it's like, you know what? Everything else in life is just a bonus. Just focus on the actual shit that matters. And when you like human connection is something that's super important to me. So when I can actually be around other people, like-minded people that especially been through that and do that, it's like, fuck, this is amazing. Like, you're actually grateful to go through all that hell. So for me, it's like, I got to triple down on this because I think I'm onto something. So I just kind of kept going and going, but the events got bigger and longer. And
yeah, what's the craziest thing you've done? You just told the marathon story, but like that was just the first. Yeah, event. I want people to understand that like that's just where it began. Like, what's the craziest thing you've done to date? What are you planning on doing that's super crazy? What's next?
All right, so I don't have one, but I can think of three. So one is running an ultra marathon down Mount Everest. That's one.
An ultra marathon is 10, not 10 marathons.
No, so an ultra marathon is anything further than the marathon distance,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
So you can have 31 milers, which is probably the smallest and the most common, which is a 50K. 100 miles, I've done a couple of those when they're like at least 24, going to take you about a good 24 hours.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how long does that take?
Yeah, I had to do I ran for 24 hours around a 400-meter track one time. I did about 405 laps or something for a family that lost their dad, to give back to them because he was the husband had died from a heart attack and he was an endurance athlete. So what's something that he would do, and what if we could raise the funds and awareness for this family to get them back on their feet? And that one that wasn't one of the hardest, but because there's been so many since then, but that one taught me about perspective. 17 hours in, you are going, this is nuts. I don't know if I can go on, but I'm like, I can't be complaining. After 7 more hours of this, the family just lost their dad forever. So it's like, that taught me like the power of doing things for a cause greater than yourself. That's like the best accountability. Like, I did 50 kilometers of that event with a blind guy. I was his blind runner, and he was meant to bring a guide runner. Dude, I felt rich when I'm with him in health, because I can't be complaining because the poor bastard can't see.
Yeah,
but I can see. I can see you, man. I can wake up and know what I'm doing. The guy, and he's never really complaining. So that's a powerful lesson. It's like there's always someone that has it worse.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right, and like that's a great mindset to have. And like I just want to point out, and as you were talking, I pulled up your website. I just want to point out the fact that you are about helping. Like everything that you're doing, you give back, right? So like you've given to Wounded Warrior Project, Cure for Cystic Fibrosis, Youth for Good, Black Dog Institute, and Cancer Council of Queensland. Like the list goes on and on. So why? Right. So like I know so many people who do these things just for them. Why are you doing these things for other people as well? Because obviously there is a win in it for you too, whether it's to overcome mental barriers, to build a brand, whatever. But like why for other people? What's the importance of that for you?
I guess to push when you can push the limits for other people, personally is to see what I'm actually able to do. Like I'm just super curious what humans are capable of, but that uniqueness, that novelty, that absurdness catches people's attention, and it's like, well, why not use that attention for some sort of good to help people that actually need it? And you know, as the triple whammy, if this can empower people to do their own thing or to realize what's possible as well, that's why I do that. So essentially, philanthropist gone in business, right? I have both models, but everything I've learned in business came from the philanthropy side of things, and I don't make any money from the philanthropy. 100% always goes to there, whether it's raising funds or raising awareness. As awareness is just as powerful as raising funds. Right. But it all happened because after running that first marathon, I got one of my close friends into running, and he was keen, and then we started running one event a month, just shits and gigs, and just to get our physical self back on track, because we both used to be about anywhere between 25 to 30 pounds heavier. Yeah. And it was to a point, it's like, why don't we just do what we do? We'll run one event a month for someone else, right? What if we raise funds and this is when we were like, okay, who are going to help? And end up being the Cancer Council, because we had lost family to cancer. And a lot of people can resonate with this because everyone has some sort of time with cancer, whether you have it, you have family that has it, or you're very close friends with a family that has it. And it was like, all right, 2 kids. Well, now this is when we were an endurance duo. We're not anymore, but because we're doing solo stuff. But you know what? It's a matter of one event a month, and we'll try and raise the next amount of money. Dude, so we had 13 events lined up. It became 25, became 32, became 40. So we tripled the amount of events we got to do. They started off with like half marathons, and then they started into marathons, and then they went double marathons the same weekend. And then it went into June was pretty full on month where we had 3 63 milers, so 3 of the weekends, and then another one was just a regular marathon. and it's that one teaches you, it's like, if you truly want something, you'll make it happen. But then it got to a point where you're doing 24 hours on a treadmill. That's in the top 3 I mentioned before. The Everest one was up there. This 24-hour treadmill challenge.
So like 24 hours on a treadmill, no breaks?
If I need to take a piss, I'll take a piss. Funny story, dude. 15 hours into that thing,
I'd lie and say I had to take a piss every 5 minutes. Be like, yeah, I gotta pee.
Well, you're sweating everything out anyway.
Right.
But I needed to take a shit on 15 hours in.
Oh my
and
God.
everything stopped working. Like my legs stopped working for like 10 minutes or so. And everyone's like, dude, are you right? What's going on in there? I was like, I can't walk. I can't stand. So it's just a matter of like using like all I had left was willpower, get back up, and just get back on.
Yeah, man, that's the mind. That's the mind and the body, right? Like that's what we were talking about earlier. Like when your mind battles your body, and your body will battle your mind, and like you have to somehow figure out how to get that in line to overcome.
Well, I'll tell you actually what got me through. So it's a very, very vivid moment, and I usually mention this one moment in my keynotes because this is the biggest aha moment in life, and it still is. We're 8 hours into this treadmill challenge. It had to be in the hottest day, the windiest day. That one took a lot of persistence because that was just an idea that spawned out of nothing. Sure, let's do it. The matter of getting the actual treadmills to the location was the hardest thing, and then it's just a matter of actually doing it. But 8 hours in, I'm ready to call it quits, man, because it's event 31 or 40. Still got another 9 events left of the year, and this is September, so literally 9 consecutive events, one every weekend for the rest of the year. I'm ready to jump off this thing and just light this damn treadmill on fire and I don't care. I'm over it. But people with like cancer had been finding out what we were doing, and they're driving all over the state. People we knew and we didn't know, they want to come support, whatever, and they're just coming up to us and going, "Thank you for everything you're doing." And it's like, I'm getting goosebumps to even say this, but it's like I'm actually grateful to go through all the hell years ago to put myself in the right mindset to make an impact on someone else. And it's like, I think that's what purpose is, to serve someone else. And it's like, you know what, I got you, dude. And it's like that serendipitously, it was like a godsend. It's like, I needed that.
Yeah.
So when I'm stuck getting on the toilet, it's like, just go back to that moment. So that powerful lesson translates into when everything feels chaotic and whether it is running a marathon or starting that business or whatever it is, there's going to be times where everything's failing on you. Remember your reason why. That's going to keep you grounded. It's going to keep you calibrated. It's going to keep you back on earth, grounded back on earth when your mind is wandering off in space.
Yeah, that's great. I love all of that, man. And so here you are now. You've built this business around the idea that you can push through, you can be resilient, you can overcome adversity. Yep. So what are you doing now to be able to impact businesses and individuals with your message? Like what's your mission? Like what are you building now?
Yeah, sure. So for me, it's like, because I used to be an engineer, believe it or not.
Really?
I wasn't a very good one because I wasn't analytical, but I was very creative. So I knew how to design things, but when it came to anything related to standards, I was a bit unconventional like that. But
makes complete sense, actually.
I needed to get out, actually, because it'd been a good 7-8 years that I needed a change. For me, it's like, I wake up and I don't even know what day it is, right? I think that's when you're in the right field, where your Mondays feel like Fridays.
Yeah.
And I was too busy, like, being around people that strive for weekends, only on weekends at the other job, and it just didn't feel right. And I felt actually really alone at work. So for me, I'm actually a lot about like workplace resilience, right? Like, and it's usually the millennials are the demographic I cater towards, but it's entrepreneurial, ones working up the corporate ladder, or the ones that are building their own brand. Because especially the one building your own brand, you're so focused on your people, you're so focused on building the world in your own image that you sometimes forget about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a massive issue these days with like founders like struggling with their mental health, and and as well as that, it's the people that are stuck in plateaus, right? It feels like this never-ending road on Route 66. Eventually the road ends, but it just feels like it never ends. And it's how do we get them from good to great?
Right.
Like tapping into those areas where people don't even realize. And for example, like you said, oh, what do you have coming up? I've got so in 3 days I fly to Scotland to run across it. So it's an event
to run across the country.
Yeah.
Oh my
so
God.
It's 214 mile or 345 kilometers for my metric friends, and it's a legit race. It's like 200 people qualify for this thing, like 16, 17 nations. I think I'm the third youngest, and it's there's no monetary fundraising, but I'm doing it for the people that get told no their entire lives. When the people that they're so cynical because they let other people's opinions dictate their reality. And it's like, if not using comparison, but using perspective, if this dude can run across the country, maybe I can get off the couch and do 2Ks a day, or maybe I can write that book I've always wanted to. So for me, everything's tied in together because it got to a point where people are like, why aren't you speaking? Like, I want to hear you speak, or I want to read your book. I don't have any of those things. And then it got to a point where enough strangers were giving me that same feedback. But I'm thinking, that's so direct. They're going to be clients one day if I actually do it. Better give them what they want. And I stuck with it. I was like, this is probably a calling. So, and it hasn't been easy though, but it's had its dividends for sure when you stick with it. Like we were talking about before, you said, what's your routine? Dude, it's like sometimes I'm up to 4 a.m. because sometimes I'm just I need to make it happen, and that's all I've got to get to 4 a.m. And it always goes back to, I wonder if this can impact someone or inspire someone or help someone. And you know what, dude, the private messages are the best metric I go off, and that's my fuel to keep me going too. And someone's like, thank you so much. It's like, if I could actually turn to fruition.
Yeah, right. No, and and I'm very much the same, right? So like the thank yous and the people who reach out from all over the world saying, hey, this episode impacted me. That's my currency, right? And so obviously, yes,
of course,
as entrepreneurs, we need to make money, we need to make a living, but my real currency is that, and that's why we talked about the live event that I'm planning. That's a currency for me. Like, it's not about making money on the event; it's about making an impact, and I think that's why your message resonates so much with me. Because I think you and I have the same kind of mindset of wanting to give back, wanting to make an impact. And yeah, of course, like, we need to serve ourselves too. And like, I want people to understand that as well. Like, it's okay to, at certain times, be selfish. You have to stay healthy, but at the same time, yeah, man, like, it's that purpose driven, wanting to give back and so on and so forth. So with that being said, how do people find you? How do they hire you? Where do they get your book? Like, what's all that exciting stuff? And is there anything else you want to add before we get to the rapid fire questions?
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. Actually, the selfish thing, it's true. You need a blend of both. There's an amazing book called The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. And he says you need a blend of both. It's okay to have selfish things. At the end of the day, it's you are a charity of your own as well. Like, if you have nothing in your cup, how are you meant to give? So money's just a magnifier of you as a person. Look at Bill Gates, right? He lost his billionaire status, the number 1 billionaire status, because he ended up giving a lot of it to charity, and then he came back up. And then Bezos just went past him just before. But well,
yeah, now Apple's worth $1 trillion, which is crazy.
It's I know, isn't that nuts? But if money's just a resourceful tool, and I feel like we do need it because we need to be realistic here too. But at the end of the day, you're probably going to use it to create more opportunity or leverage it to help other people. So, of course, you need to look after yourself. In regards to where people can find me, I'd say my website's probably going to be the best spot, just because it's got all my social handles on there. If anyone wants to book me to speak, or if they want me to coach them, but it's Tofe, Tofe -, Evans, EVANS.com. So tofe-evans.com.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll link that up in the show notes, and you can. He's got a great site, so make sure you guys go check that out. All his information's on there. You can again link to his social from there and everything like that. So, I want to get into the 5 rapid fire questions. That's how I wrap up all these episodes. Some are fun,
Yeah, sure.
some are serious, but I ask you this, answer with only one word or at least one sentence. Are you ready?
Gotcha. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, number 1, what is your favorite smell?
Coffee.
Now, coffee's amazing.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
I'd say Oprah. I like Oprah.
Yeah, that'd be an amazing,
she's cool.
amazing conversation for sure. What song do you like to run to the most?
Oh, I don't run to any music, bro.
Wow. So let me ask you this then. I'll spin it. What's the most embarrassing song you have downloaded on your phone?
Oh, Break Free by Ariana Grande for sure.
That was so quick too. Like that's probably the number one listened to song on your phone because you went there so quick.
Oh man, I had this conversation with someone the other day, and I said, it's my guilty pleasure, and like I don't usually listen to pop. I'm like, this song is so damn catchy.
But
it's so good. It's like Taylor Swift Shake, right? It's like we all know it, but it's like who cares at the end of the day.
But by the way, we talked before we started recording about how I live in Reading, Pennsylvania. Taylor Swift is from my town. Like that's another thing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's originally from here. Yeah, and then she moved to like Nashville when she was 14 or something like that. Anyway,
okay.
At the end of your life, if you could be remembered for only one sentence, what would it be?
The person that helped people empower to break their own limits. So, to realize what they're actually truly capable of.
Awesome. And obviously this podcast is called The Growth Now Movement, so I wrap up every single episode with this one question, and that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Oh, God. Being my own comeback. Easy.
Awesome.
And I think that comes down to everything. A lot of my teachings come from sport, right? Just because I do sport and I just really resonate with sport. And I think a lot of people can just encapsulate what it's about because sport's really easy to visualize. And it's kind of like American football when the Patriots won a couple of years against the Falcons and they were down, still fourth quarter, and they're down by like 25 points, something stupid. People walking out of the stadium, they end up coming back to win. It's the greatest Super Bowl game in history. Well, it's when like Cavs beat Golden State a couple of years back and they were down 3-0 and they came back to win. It's like, be the comeback, dude. It doesn't matter what the setbacks are. You probably actually need the setbacks because it makes your story more badass. But you end up looking at adversity or the failures as an adventure as opposed to a chore, let's just say.
I love that.
Be the comeback.
I love that.
Yeah, being
No, for sure, man. And you're 100% right. And like the one thing I just want to point out is that the Patriots did not make a comeback to the Philadelphia Eagles.
I didn't mention that one.
Go Birds. But anyway, with that being said, man, I in all honesty, I want to thank you for coming on the show, sharing your message with my audience, but also just doing what you do every single day, not needing the accolades, giving back, and being a good force in the world because we need more of that. And so just thank you so much for being that driving force, man.
Dude, and I want to acknowledge you. Thank you for thank you for letting me jump on, and I appreciate you too, man.
Absolutely, brother. We'll talk soon. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.